So we want to get started with Node.js, and for that we first all of need to install it. To do this, visit nodejs.org and then there simply download the latest version. In my case, that's 14.11. It will change over time. When you are watching this, you might be see a higher version here. It is important to note that their version will be changed frequently, but they do not really bring many new changes. It most of the time just behind the scene optimize a bug fix. I will keep this course updated through as I have in the past. But with that, let's install this latest version to this. Simply download on our system, and I am doing in the Mac here on Windows. It's exactly the same. You can download the installer here and then you simply walk through that installer, and again here that the Mac installer on Windows. You have a simple installer and you simply walk through all the steps you have there leave all by the default setting which are set up for you. You don't need to tweak anything there. Ultimately, this will then install Node.js on your system. This JavaScript runtime, this course is all about, and we need to Node.js install in our execute. JavaScript code and Node.js, which of course in our goal in this course. So once this is installed, we can use it. And the first and quickest way to getting started with it, and it is using that your open you up default system terminal or command prompt on the Windows. So again here I am on Mac OS. So I am using the built-in terminal on the Windows. You would simply open the command prompt on PowerShell and you can check whether Node.js has been installed successfully by running node-b to check the version of Node.js that was installed. And there you should see the version you just download and installed, and with that that succeed. If you don't get error, you know that it's worked. We can use Node, and one way of using it in the enter and interactive mode. Node.js offer you the so-called RESTful TA, which I come back later. You enter the interactive mode by simply execute node as a command. Now, this enter a new mode in your terminal or command prompt, and here you can run certain node command. You can use it as a basic calculator to basic math there, and you could do more than that. You could run some JavaScript code in there. Again, I will come back to this RESTful later, but actually this interactive mode might be nice to play around with Node. You are not going to use it to write real Node program for that. Instead, you will use the code editor and store your code in files, then execute their files with Node. So let's do that. Now, for that, let's quit the interactive mode by press Ctrl C twice or Ctrl D to typing exit. As you see here, and once you close that mode, let's actually create a new project, a new folder in which we write our first code. And I did just that. I create a new folder somewhere on my system and I opened it with my favorite code editor, Visual Studio Code, which you can find it simply Google and VZ Code, or you visit code.visualstudio.com. Visual Studio is a free code editor which is great for web development, and it is available for Mac OS, Windows and Linux so that you can use it and operate them. Simply download it and code.visualstudio.com and then walk through the installer that gives you. To install this editor on your system. As a side note, you can use any IDE code editor of your choice. Of course, Visual Studio is just what I will be using through of this course and what I recommend that you use. If you don't have another favorite editor, of course it will be installed. You can open your project folder, which is movement should be empty with this tool simply by going to to file and then open and pick the folder which you want to write your code file. Now, if you want to make sure that you got the same look as a feel, I do use go to view appearance, and there you can control whether or not you see the sidebar, this activity bar on the left on, and so on. So that's how you can customize this. And in addition, under preference color theme, I using the dark plus theme, and you can switch to this as well as if you want to have the same color. Last but not least, under view extension, you can search for the material icon theme, which is 100% optional but which will give you specific icon look at which you see all for the discourse in my project. So that's why I will enable the icon theme here for me using an optional rule. And with all of that, we got a code editor set up which we are going through to this course, or which I am going to use. And now we can write our first code node in a file. For that, I will add a new file in that, which will name is dash app.js, because of course it will be hold some JavaScript code in there. We can now write JavaScript code which can be executed by Node.js, and a very simple code snippet we could write here is a simple console log statement which log something to the console. There we say hello from Node.js, for example. This is code which would run in a browser. It is will also will execute in Node.js. Now, to execute with Node.js, we need to execute this file here with Node.js. And for that, the easiest way to doing that in Visual Studio Code is that we are go to terminal, new terminal. In this open by default your system terminal or command prompt here IDE, and already navigate to this project, and then we can run this app.js by file running node and then first and dash app.js. So simply add the file name after node, and then you will not enter the interactive mode but execute this code file in JavaScript file with Node.js, and through you should see hello from Node.js here. That was the nice first example, but we can do more with Node, and to write at least a little bit more realistic or more fancy application. We can also try and write some output to a file instead of the console, and for this we will leverage one of the built-in functionality Node.js offered, and that would be first system functionality, which enable us to work with the file system to us. We first of all have to import it into the file to let Node known that we want to do this functionality. And the syntax for that is that we can require a function made availability by Node.js, and we want require the fs module, which is one of Node's core modules shipping together with Node.js. And I will come back to the import syntax, and to that Node come module is greater detail later. For now we just call this, and we were stored to import files functionality in the simple constant here, and then we can use the file system to call write file sync, which is a method made available by this file system object which were importing, and this method here will write a file to our hard drive, and the argument is want to path to file including the file name, and here we could name this hello.txt, and then second argument is content of that file, and here we can store hello from Node again. So now this is our code here. I am writing to file by leveraging the file system module offered by Node.js, and it we now save the file and run node first edge again. We should find a hello text file next to our script file which contains this content, and that is how we can use Node.js. Now obviously we were just scratching the surface of the moment. We just learn about brand new syntax which you don't know from the browser, and therefore we are going to dive way deeper into the in all of the over next lecture and through this entire course.